I'm Dan Gemeinhart, and I'm super excited to talk about my newest book, Scar Island. Scar Island is about a boy named Jonathan Grisby, who's found guilty of a terrible crime and sent to the Slabhenge Reformatory School for Troubled Boys. Slabhenge is a crumbling old insane asylum on an island, full of dungeons and towers. It's an awful sort of half-reform school, half-prison, ruled by a violent maniac known as the Admiral. When a catastrophe leaves the boys of Slabhenge alone on the island with no grown-ups, they have to survive the island and survive each other and deal with the ghosts of their own past. When I sat down to write Scar Island, I wanted to write a gripping, white-knuckle adventure, but I also wanted to tell a story about kids trying to figure out who they are and trying to figure out their own pasts and their own futures when everything's been taken away from them. It's about grief and guilt. It's about identity and belonging. It's about survival and friendship. I can't wait for you to read Scar Island.
There's nothing more magical than meeting a character who, from the very first page, feels like an old friend. I felt it with Anne Shirley, I felt it with Ramona Quimby, and most recently I felt it with Possum Porter. She's a sweet but rather mischievous girl growing up in the 1930s who's always been taught at home. But when her mother passes away, Possum's father insists on sending her to school. A real school, where you have to wear shoes, and where they don't even let you bring your dog. So Possum comes up with an outlandish scheme that'll get her back home where she belongs, and protect her beloved mama's memory. This story wrapped itself around my heart and never let go. I can't wait for you to meet Possum Porter, the most charming, hilarious bundle of mischief since Scout Finch. I dare you to try to read more than a page without falling in love.
The Goldfish Boy is an extraordinary debut novel that accomplishes the rare feat of being both a tender, thoughtful character study and a suspenseful page-turner. This is the story of Matthew Corbin, who is struggling in secret with obsessive-compulsive disorder. He spends his days hiding away in his room, watching through his window as the world goes by. His solitude comes to an end, however, when the toddler next door goes missing. Matthew might hold the key to solving the mystery of what happened to his young neighbor before it's too late. But that will mean stepping out of his comfort zone and exposing his own heartbreaking secrets. This emotionally complex, high-interest whodunit will keep you guessing until the end, and will stay in your heart long after that.
The Icarus Show by Sally Christie. Now, every so often, into this building comes a writer who really makes me sit up and read. And this is what Sally Christie is. This is writing of a kind that you get very rarely, where they're able to tell the story in such a way and approach a story and you're just intrigued. I was intrigued by the very start of this book. A little feather is dropped into the school satchel of our hero. What's that feather about? Why has it been put there? And slowly Sally winds you into this hugely, actually moving, heart-wrenching story, but also humorous. How to do those things at the same time? Goodness knows, but Sally can do it. And it comes to an extraordinary climax as well. We have got a real live one here in Sally Christie, and this is just the first book. You're going to love The Icarus Show.
I'm Alyson Gerber, author of Braced, the first contemporary novel about scoliosis, an abnormal curvature of the spine that affects an estimated 7 million people in the United States. In Braced, 12-year-old Rachel Brooks is excited for 7th grade. She's finally earned her place on her soccer team. She really likes a cute boy named Tate, and she's pretty sure he likes her back. After one last appointment with her scoliosis doctor, this will be her best year yet. Then the doctor delivers some terrible news. The sideways curve in Rachel's spine has gotten worse, and she needs to wear a back brace 23 hours a day. The brace wraps her in hard plastic from her shoulder blades to her hips. It changes how her clothes fit, how she kicks a ball, and how everyone sees her. But as Rachel confronts all the challenges the brace presents, the biggest change of all may lie in how she sees herself. I wrote Braced because I have scoliosis, and wore a back brace during middle school. I didn't know anyone else who had a brace, and there wasn't a book that talked honestly about what I was going through. I wanted to change that and give a voice to this experience. My hope is that by raising awareness about scoliosis and sensitivity for kids who are being treated for the disorder, that Rachel's story might be a gateway to heightened understanding for others.
Hello, I'm executive editor Aimee Friedman. I'm honored to be speaking to you today about the novel Making Bombs for Hitler by Marcia Forchuk-Skripek. This powerful book tells the story of Lida, a young Ukrainian girl who has watched her Jewish neighbors be taken away to concentration camps. Lida is not Jewish. She and her family should be safe, right? But they are not. As World War II rages on around them, Lida is torn away from everyone she loves and taken by the Nazis to a work camp. There, alongside other Ukrainian children, she is forced into backbreaking labor, including making bombs for the German army. But might there be a way for Lida to sabotage the bombs and even find freedom? For readers who enjoyed Alan Gratz's Prisoner B 3087, this is a gripping novel about a lesser-known piece of history, told in an incredibly compelling and accessible way.
Hi, I'm Andrea Pinkney, and I am delighted to introduce debut author Celeste Lim, who has delivered a stunning novel entitled The Crystal Ribbon. From page 1, we are plunged into the village of Hunan in medieval China, where we become immediately enraptured by the plight of 11-year-old Jing, the daughter of a poor farmer. When Jing is sold as a bride to a wealthy family, she's forced to become the wife and nursemaid of a 3-year-old boy. With the help of a spider who weaves Jing a means to escape and a nightingale who helps her find her way, this young girl embarks on a quest that leads her to herself. The Crystal Ribbon is inspired by stories Celeste Lim heard from her great-grandmother. Born and raised in Malaysia, the author's own Chinese calligraphy and drawings punctuate the text, which takes us on a multi-sensory journey through China's past, filled with wonder, enchantment, heartache, and joy.
How many of you feel overwhelmed by the amount of work you have to do? How many of you have daydreamed of just, going on strike over some part of that? Just not doing it? What would happen? Well, of course we can't do that, but it sure is fun to read about it. And it's even more fun if you're a middle schooler. Remember back to that moment when the demands of homework began to push out all the other things you might have liked to do, including reading for pleasure? Ever daydream of just bagging it for once? This is that fantasy, in a book. But along with being a terrific story with a super appealing premise and a wonderful cast of characters, The Homework Strike is a surprisingly nuanced exploration of a problem faced by virtually every middle schooler today. This is the kind of book that Louis Sachar and Jack Gantos and Jerry Spinelli have made so popular, getting to the heart of stuff that real kids are going through with plenty of humor.
I'm Gordon Corman, and I've had a great time creating books like Slacker and the Swindle series. My newest book, Restart, began when I was thinking about kids and bullying. Basically, is a bully something you just are, or is it something you learn to be? And what would happen if the worst bully in a school had his mind wiped clean so he could start over? Would he naturally go back to his old ways, or would he have a chance to kind of reboot himself and become a better person? That's exactly what happens to Chase Ambrose. When he falls off his roof and lands on his head, he wakes up in the hospital with amnesia. He doesn't recognize his family, his friends, even his own reflection in the mirror is a total stranger. He's lucky to be alive, but he sure doesn't feel that way. He has to relearn everything about himself. And there's a lot. Chase is an important guy at his middle school. Football star, MVP, big man on campus. And he starts to realize, a complete jerk. He doesn't like the things he's hearing about his old self. But can he walk away from the life he had for 13 years and the friends who are welcoming him back? Could a bully reinvent himself as a totally different kid? Is it even possible to restart?
Hi, I'm Aimee Sarig King, and I'm here to talk to you about my new book, Me and Marvin Gardens. The book is about an 11-year-old boy named Obi Devlin, who was witnessing the destruction of his childhood playground, a cornfield, as construction companies build a housing development around his old farmhouse. He's also lost his best and only friend, Tommy, to the new kids in the development. But the book is also about Marvin Gardens, a never-before-discovered animal who eats plastic. Only plastic. While this is a cool discovery, it turns out Marvin's taste for plastic isn't all good, and it's Obie's job to figure out what to do about it. So he keeps Marvin a secret until he can find a solution. The more Obie learns the truth about pollution in science class during Ms. G's Earth Month, the more he wants to share Marvin Gardens with her. But he keeps quiet because he doesn't know who to trust. And luckily, he meets Annie, a new girl who lives in the development, who he can finally trust enough to share Marvin with. I hope you enjoy the book, and thank you very much for listening.
What happens when you try to bury history, but it refuses to die? My name is Natasha Tarpley, and this is the question that my protagonists, 3 7th graders, Elvin, Alex, and Jen, attempt to answer in my new middle grade novel, The Harlem Charade. At the beginning of the book, Elvin's grandfather is fighting for his life in Harlem Hospital after he was mysteriously attacked in a community garden where just days before a neighborhood kid unearthed a valuable painting. Throw in a greedy politician's plot to take over Harlem's real estate, and you have the seeds of a dangerous mystery that Elvin, Alex, and Jen must untangle in order to save Harlem's past and future, not to mention their own lives. I hope that the Harlem Charade inspires you to learn more about the history of your own neighborhood and to become an active part in shaping its future.
I'm Scott Westerfeld, and I'm here to tell you about my new series called Horizon. It's about a group of kids who are flying from New York to Tokyo when their plane is seized by a mysterious force. It starts to crash. The kids are all in a robotics club, so they use their mad engineering skills, both to survive and to put together parts of the plane, and to help out with a strange alien technology that they find in the jungle. Why is it there? Where did all this stuff come from? And why did they land in a jungle when they should have landed in the Arctic snows? Anyway, I hope you get a chance to check out Horizon. It's a 7-book series starting this December. Enjoy.
Hi, I'm Emma Donoghue, author of the forthcoming The Lotteries Plus One. I'm the youngest of 8 from a Dublin family, and for this book I've written about Sumac Lottery, who's 9 and in a house of 11 people, which expands even more when one of her grandfathers has to move in. I wrote the book partly because my own kids, who have 2 mothers, so take their family for granted, and I wanted to capture some of that blithe spirit in writing about a very modern family in contemporary Toronto. One of the things I love in great kids fiction is when difficult issues get to be introduced without making the narrative grind to a halt. So in this story, I included the grandfather with dementia because my own mother is living with dementia, and I really wanted to deal with it in a way which would use humour to take out some of the sting. I've never had a fully illustrated novel before, and it's a huge thrill to me to feel that Caroline's illustrations are going to bring out aspects of each of the many characters, even the pets, and bring out a lot of the warmth and almost awkward, fun slapstick moments of this story. I can't wait for you to meet these characters, and I hope you enjoy The Lotteries Plus One.
I'm so happy to present This Is Just a Test by Madeline Rosenberg, the acclaimed author of many books including The Schmutzy Family, a finalist for the National Jewish Book Award, and Wendy Wanlong Shang, the award-winning author of The Great Wall of Lucy Wu and The Way Home Looks Now. David Dawei Horowitz, who is half Chinese and half Jewish, is a 13-year-old boy with big issues on his mind. It's November 1983, and David is worried about world peace as the Cold War standoff between the U.S. and the USSR continues. And family peace as his Chinese grandmother and his Jewish grandmother have their own standoff. David should be studying for his bar mitzvah or working on his science fair project, but he would much rather be preparing for his upcoming trivia tournament or figuring out how to talk to his beautiful classmate, Kelly Ann. David has to figure out how to make peace with his family, his friends, and his own mixed heritage.
We all know what it feels like to be embarrassed by our parents. But in family game night and other catastrophes, it goes deeper than being embarrassed by a dumb joke or a lame outfit. In fact, Annabelle Balog hasn't let any of her friends come to her home in years. That's because her mother is a hoarder. Then comes the day when a stack of newspapers topples onto her little sister, sparking a fight between their parents, resulting in their dad taking off and their busybody grandmother stepping in. In the midst of all the chaos, can Annabelle possibly look out for her little sister, protect her secrets, and maintain her own sanity? Or should she, like her father, take the first out she can get? Author Mary Lambert is a middle school English teacher in Arizona. Her debut novel tackles the subject of hoarding with honesty, hope, and lots of humor.
I was inspired to write this newest book of mine, Stealing Our Way Home, when I came across an article one day in the newspaper about a father who was robbing banks with his two older kids. They were in their early 20s, but I'll never forget the quote that the son made as they were all on their way to jail. When one of the reporters asked him to do it again, he said, "In I'd do anything for family." And it got me wondering what happened to two young kids in that similar situation. How does family define us as we grow up and then as we find ourselves older? And what do we do when we find ourselves in an incredibly difficult situation like these kids do in stealing our way home?
Hi, I'm Jim Benton, and I look exactly like that. I write books. It's Happy Bunny, Randy K. Stein. I write picture books. You might know Dear Dumb Diary. We made that one into a movie. But the one that I want to talk to you about is Victor Schmud, Total Expert. Kids believe that they're an expert in everything. In this story, Victor's confidence leads him into an intergalactic battle, which he can only get out of with the help of Dumpy Lumps, who he believes is a chicken, and his friend Patty, and of course the beautiful, gorgeous Mrs. Nozzleburp, who is his teacher and who he sees as the most beautiful woman that ever lived. So I hope that you'll give Victor Schmud a try. Things are what he does best.
Hey buddies, my name is Kevin Sherry, author and illustrator of the Yeti Files series, here to introduce you to my new book, Remy Sneakers vs. the Robo-Rats. If you like the Yeti Files, you'll love Remy Sneakers. It's got all kinds of great diagrams, lots of map pages, cool graphic novel pages, and a whole lot of action. This book stars Remy Sneakers, the coolest raccoon you'll ever meet. Remy is a collector of special items, like his pair of awesome sneakers. But in the beginning of the book, Remy is framed for a robbery, and he must travel through a very cool city to solve the crime. Along the way, Remy Sneakers asks for help from the other city critters. The mice from Mouseville, the rats from Rat City, and even the pigeons from Pigeon Plaza. Remy Sneakers vs. the Robo-Rats. I hope you'll pick it up from the bookstore or library or from Scholastic. Thanks a lot. See you later.
Greetings everyone from the Inland Empire in Southern California. My name is Isabel Quintero and I am the author of Ugly Cat and Pablo, a chapter book for young readers. Our story takes place in the Mariposa Valley neighborhood, in a neighborhood very much like this one, in homes very much like the one behind me. That's actually my mom's house. Ugly Cat, well, he's an ugly cat, and Pablo, his best friend, is a small gray mouse. They are an unlikely pair who love fun, mischief, and snacks, especially paletas, frozen fruit pops, for those of you who don't speak Spanish. The book was inspired by my favorite summertime sweet, paletas, and by neighborhood paleteros, hardworking men and women who sell these delicious treats in Latino neighborhoods across our country. In the book, Ugly Cat and Pablo go to the park in hopes of finding something tasty, like a hot dog or some chicharrones. But instead, they come across that most wondrous of summertime friends, a paletero, and they devise a plan to get their paws on a delicious paleta de coco. Unfortunately, things don't go so well. An ugly cat has to devise a plan in order to save Pablo from becoming a snake snack sandwich. Ugly Cat and Pablo is a story about amistad, risas, and paletas. I hope you have as much fun reading it as I did writing it.
Hi, I'm Maz Evans, author of Who Let the Gods Out, my 4-part comedy adventure series for middle grade. Who Let the Gods Out stars Elliot, who is a 12-year-old young carer whose life is changed forever when a haughty young constellation called Virgo quite literally crash lands into his life, introducing him to the world of the modern-day immortal, because of course being immortal, they're still here, they're still amongst us. Maybe I'm talking to one now. I was inspired to write my story by a love of mythology that was sparked by this book that I won at school 30 years ago. You judge which of us has aged better. And I know as an educator and as a mum, sometimes it just takes that one book to ignite a spark in a child, to open a new world to them. And I really hope that my book might be that key for a child. So please help me to find them. I wish you all the best for the wonderful work that you do, and I can't wait to let the gods out in 2017. Thank you so much.
New York Times bestselling author of The Last Dragon Chronicles, Chris DeLacy continues to astonish me as he weaves new folds and layers into his richly dynamic dragon mythology. I always look forward to a new manuscript from across the pond as I wait to see what Chris has come up with next. And now, this first book in a brand new series stars both a curious and brave young human hero, the only one of his kind who dares to seek out the fire breathers, and a courageous young dragon with a bold heart who has much to prove. With non-stop action, relatable characters, plenty of magic and thrills, The Whirl makes for a wonderful entree into an irresistible new saga.